Hi, Abby. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so good.
Good.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, so welcome to the Honey Pop. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Abby Anderson. Hello. I'm originally from San Antonio / Dallas, Texas. And I'm a singer-songwriter. It's what I've always loved to do. I moved to Nashville when I was 17 to start writing songs and singing. And I just put out my debut album. So that's exciting. That feels pretty good. And yeah, I guess that's the gist of it.
Awesome. So you mentioned you recently released your single Juicy. How has the reaction been like for you?
It's been good. I mean, I think it's been really good. I'd like I'd like to think that everybody's really resonating with it. I love getting, seeing the fans on like TikTok and Instagram DMing me like them dancing to it and stuff. And that's all I can hope for, is that it brings joy to people who listen.
Definitely. So not only are you a singer, you are also a songwriter. Where do you grab your inspiration from?
Honestly, probably like the crazy thoughts I have in my brain a lot of times. Like the stories we tell ourselves that aren't necessarily true all the time. I take those thoughts and put them into a song. First of all, because it's entertaining for me, it's very therapeutic. And honestly, it's just always what I've done. Like from the time I was 5, I just always felt the need to just write. I love writing. So yeah.
I love that. I am not a songwriter because I just
But
can't.
you're a writer, so
Yeah, I write. I just it's like I love just learning about the different like songwriting strategies because I find it really fascinating. Because like you hear about some people who are like, no, I was in the shower and I heard this beat with the water and I was like, nah, that'd be a good song. I'm like, where does this come from?
Where does it come from?
I was like, I love it though. Like it's so fun just learning about like how it's so different for each individual artist because some people can be like, no, I came in with an actual concept, like me and the other co-writer or my like partner or someone was like, this would be a good song.
For sure.
And then you come in and you're like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
So when you're going into a writing session, do you usually have a concept in mind or is it more like I have this beat that I think would be really cool, or like how does it come about?
Dude, every day is different. And I think that's what's fun. Like if I know I have a write coming up with someone that's like a friend or that I know super well, usually I'll save something that I've started for them. If it's something that I really love and I just can't seem to like either like I'll start a song by myself and just get really bored just by myself. Like I love writing with other people because I feed off their energy. So I'll usually save those for some friends or someone I like really trust it with. But a lot of times, man, sometimes like you wake up and you have no ideas because you can't, like it's hard to be creative every single day sometimes. But like for example, I had a session yesterday I had no ideas for, but I was writing with 2 people I really love, and we literally just got in the room and we were all like, what are we feeling today? And I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even have any feelings. Like, and we just started strumming and like words started falling out. And it really just, it happens fast, it's just the practice of creativity. I find every time I play an instrument or sit down at piano, the subconscious, starts working.
I love that though, because there are like different vibes when you go into a room. So it's like you're going with someone you've never met and you're just like, okay, let's see how deep we want to go.
Yeah, sometimes the vibe is terrible. The vibe is terrible and you just got to get the hell out. So.
Yeah. You're like, well, this has been good. I'm going to go. So Sugar Spice is the debut album and it recently released on July 15th. What has the reaction been, or like what is something kind of like a standout moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to my most standout moment has been, first of all, releasing something that I love, like every single song I freaking love, and the production, the songwriting, like it's just so me. But then I think the best feeling, not that we like do this for affirmation, however, when it comes, it feels pretty damn good, you know? So I think it's been the coolest part of like getting texts and messages from other artists and friends that I really respect in the business telling me how much they love the record, how awesome they think it is. I've never really gotten that before, you know, and it makes sense. Before I was making music that was really for other people. I didn't really love it. And now to make something that I love and to have it be so well received by other artists that I really respect, that's the best feeling. And for my fans to be like, okay, this is different from what you've done in the past, but like, we love it. We love it even more. And I'm like, golly, why was I wasting all that time before? Why didn't I do this a long time ago?
Oh, I love that though, because it does. Yeah, we're not doing it for like affirmation, because like I'm a photographer, so like when I take pictures, like I've been dealing with like imposter syndrome a lot lately. So it's like I know I'm a decent photographer. Like I know. And like when I write like articles and stuff, I know I'm decent at my job.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it feels like sometimes you need that one person to be like, hey, like your photos are good.
Great.
Your writing is good. Like you're gonna be fine. Yeah. So have you dealt with imposter syndrome yourself?
Oh, dude, totally. And this is like, I'm so glad you brought this up, because I've learned something really interesting about imposter syndrome. I think imposter syndrome comes from, and ego is not a bad thing, but it comes from like this version of ourselves we think we should be. And so we're trying to like be that, you know, like amazing, gifted, whatever we think we should be, when really there is no ego involved in art. It's just simply you being in the present moment. And so I have noticed I used to deal with imposter syndrome all the time, like a few years ago when I was getting all this attention, but I didn't like love the art I was making. So it kind of felt like there's this ego version of myself that everyone was looking at, but then my true present self was just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't love it, you know? And so I've noticed like all of that has gone away. First of all, because I've noticed like my ego is hopefully getting smaller. Like other days it's big, okay? But like it's getting smaller. And I've noticed like all I have to do is be present. All I have to do is be in this present moment, like with you right now. And there's no imposter syndrome, because there's no version of myself I have to be or that I'm trying to be. It's just present moment. And that imposter syndrome goes away on its own. And also, man, I think you should know you're talented. It's okay to think you're talented, and it's good to, you know. You wouldn't be, honestly, man, you wouldn't be doing this right now if you weren't good at what you do. So it's okay to know that.
That's very true. And I will definitely be taking that advice with me, because
I need to take that advice too, man.
We're just both going to be taking this advice.
Hell yeah.
Because it is hard, and it's hard being a woman in music. Like I'm not like a music writer, but I am a music photographer. Yeah. And so it is kind of difficult at times trying to be able to like, hey, I'm here too. Okay. Like exactly. I can bring something to the table. Yeah. So I think it's just there's a little bit of ego being like, I am talented, but then it's not, you don't want to get that big of an ego to be like, I'm the best of the best. It's like, wait, hold on, like chill out.
It's more so about like recognizing the gift that you've been given, because it is a gift. Definitely. You gotta recognize that.
Definitely. Okay, so you mentioned you grew up in Dallas. I am also a Texan native. I'm from Houston.
Oh, nice. There we go.
So when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, fellow brethren.
Like this is gonna be easy.
So you moved to Nashville at 17. What is the biggest difference between the two cities that you've noticed?
Oh, there's things to do in Nashville. Like, I don't know about you, the only, and I love Texas, I love Dallas, but the only thing to do in Dallas is eat. That is it. There's nothing else to do except eat. So, which isn't bad either. But I've noticed in Nashville, like, we have trails, there's good music scene, and there's always something to do, good food too, but that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, it's the same for Houston. Like, I have friends who are like, "Oh, I'm gonna come to Houston for vacation." I'm like,
Why?
Like, go anywhere else.
Here.
we have the Space Center, which isn't even technically in Houston, and then we do have a lot of good food, though. I will admit that. Like, we are pretty good with our food, but there's just nothing, and it's always so hot. It's like you don't want to do anything outside anyway. So we have our concert venues. That's about it. I'm like, if you want to come to a concert, I guess, but like, you go to a concert where you're at. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Don't come here on vacation. And then Galveston isn't even in Houston, and I'm like, but Galveston is not
it. Galveston sucks.
Yeah, I'm like, that's our beach just because we don't have anything else.
Galveston is not a beach. It's a big dirty lake.
Yeah. Like, I refuse to go in it. I'm like, I'm so sorry, Galveston.
It's sad. It's sad.
Yeah.
We can do better.
I'm like, I love you, Galveston. Like, your people are like good, but it's like that ain't it.
I feel you, man.
So you've mentioned you've dealt with an eating disorder and you've struggled with your faith because you grew up in the Mormon church.
Yeah.
How have those types of struggles like shaped you into the person that you are today?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was all necessary. Like, as much as like my eating disorder sucked, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it's something that, like, the more I tell my story, I didn't realize how many of us deal with it. Like, it's crazy how many young women and young men deal with that. And even like grown-ups deal with it. And so I think it was so necessary for me to go through that. Obviously, I did it to myself, but to go through that and heal from it, it was so funny. The instant I healed from it, I remember it was like the first time I'd made a business decision that for the first time ever, I had made from my own intuition and listened to it for the first time in my life. And I was like, whoa, like, I don't feel the need to, suddenly I don't need to control anything else because, like, I have jurisdiction over my own life. Like, I'm very, like, it was the first time too, I know it sounds silly, it was the first time I ever really thought to myself, like, okay, like, I'm an intelligent person. Like, I actually can make decisions for myself. I don't need any type of authority to tell me what to do, which is kind of a subconscious lesson I'd received from growing up in a really religious environment. And it was the first time I ever made that decision. And suddenly the disorder went away. And I think naturally I just started having a lot of questions about the religion I was brought up in. And again, like, it had its purpose. And I'm so thankful for it. I wouldn't take it back in a million years. But it came to a point where it just wasn't serving me anymore. And my eating disorder wasn't serving me anymore. So it was time to grow, time to move on, and take those lessons with me and make better decisions.
I do like that because I've also struggled with an eating disorder and disordered eating. It's kind of like flip-flopped over the years because I grew up in, like, I did cheerleading back in the day.
Oh, that'll do it, man.
So it was, it was really hard. And looking back at the pictures, I feel sad for myself because I could tell how unhappy I was, but I was also so happy because I was in cheer and I loved it. Right. But it was just like, and then I also grew up in a Lutheran church, so it's not the same, but it's
similarity though.
It's very similar. The Lutheran church is very, very similar in that it was very, very judgmental. And so when I grew up in it, and then also with the eating disorder, it was just a mess. It was a mess. But as I've gotten older, it's gotten better, and it's not as a parent, I guess, but I do take every lesson that I learned from that, and also from being in that Lutheran church, and like using the morals that I learned from my parents and from the church. But it's like, I don't want the other stuff. Like, I was like, I'm good
That's
with
okay.
judgments. I was like, I
Yeah.
can love on people, but I don't have to be like there.
Yeah.
So I do like that. I think we have to kind of take those struggles, because like, what's the point? What
Yeah.
was the point of them? We have to figure out how it can better serve us later,
Mhm.
having gone through some hardships.
For sure. And I think like the biggest thing I had to rewire my brain in is understanding that my past, the story that had been my past, is not necessarily the story I have to keep living for my future, And that has been the biggest lesson the past 2 years is, okay, just because it has been that way doesn't mean that's how it has to keep being. And that's something that takes practice too, because I will still catch myself in those same stories I used to tell myself and kind of taking myself out of it and be like, Abby, okay, hold on. That's an old story. That's not what we do anymore. That's not what we tell ourselves anymore. It's not how it has to be. And that takes time and practice. That's something I'm practicing for sure.
Oh, definitely. I think, yeah, I'm still struggling to this day. Like, I mean, it's not every single day, but it's kind of like sometimes things will kind of rear their head. I'm like, can you go back into the hole that you
Totally.
were
But
in?
even just being aware of that is
Mhm.
huge.
Yeah,
It's
it's
huge.
definitely, and it definitely, I think, takes age too, because I don't think I would have ever felt this way, like, or be able to recognize those patterns if I
Mhm.
was younger.
Yeah.
I recognize them now because I've gone kind of through a lot of things, and I can be like, hey, remember when you were like 13? Like that, you're not 13 anymore. Don't do that. Like, it's gonna be fine. Like,
Yeah,
we'll get through, and if you have a bad day, you have a bad day. That's it.
exactly.
Tomorrow is not gonna be bad. It
Exactly.
doesn't have to be bad, basically. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, so what we kind of touched on this a little bit, but is there anything else that you would want to say to someone that kind of went through similar things?
Oh, yeah, listen to yourself. Like I think a big lesson I had to learn was, it's so funny, and you can relate to this growing up in the church too, but growing up, there was a saying in the church that was doubt your doubts, right? Hey, that negative voice, that's not real. Don't listen to that. Yes, it is real. Like there's a reason you're doubting, and there's a reason, and that's not just with faith. I mean, that's with everything. There's a reason you feel anger. There's a reason you don't feel comfortable in a certain situation. There's a reason you feel like something is not right. And listen to that. And I wish I could like go back and just put arms around that 13-year-old little girl that was just having so many questions and being like having so many doubts about everything. And even my 19-year-old self, my first record deal in Nashville, just go back to that girl and be like, there is a reason you are feeling this. Listen to it. You don't have to shove it away. You don't have to listen to all the people around you saying like, no, 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 everything's great. Everything's great. There is a reason for that negative feeling, or not even negative feeling, just that emotion. There's a reason for that. Listen to it. And again, like listen to the positive stuff too. Like they're both equal, and that is okay. So that's what I would just tell myself. Listen to your intuition, because that is your greatest guide.
I love that. I really do. Because I think it's very important that we all kind of listen. Like, there is a reason why we feel the things we feel, and it's okay to feel them.
Yeah.
But you need to figure out what the reason is, so you can either like help that part of you. Like, if it's anger, and be like, why am I angry? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on to make me angry? Or what's going on to make me feel insecure? And then
Yep.
it's like, you can either fix it or just acknowledge it, and maybe that'll help you. Just
Yep.
being able to acknowledge the problem, like, hey, I feel insecure today, so I'm not gonna go
What
do
am I
this,
doing
and
that's
this. Like,
causing this insecurity? Yeah, because it's usually something we're doing
yes,
to ourselves.
yeah. or we read something that was like kind of hurtful, and it's like, well, it wasn't about you. Like, or if
Exactly.
someone is saying something to you, it's like, well, it's not always because it's you. It's you got to kind of differentiate between all that kind of stuff. And it is very hard. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I
I'm
think
28
too,
and I'm
like,
still trying to figure it out.
and you know what? We're gonna be figuring out the rest of our
Yep.
lives. And that's the point. You know,
Yes.
that's why we're here. But I mean, I do think too, like specifically for, I mean, this goes for all genders, everybody, but I think especially women, like I think we kind of live in a world, and I think society's getting better, but being told like how to be in the world, right? How to show up in the world. And this is okay and this is not. And I think subconsciously we learn to deny ourselves and to deny what we truly want. Like, dude, hunger, right? Like I remember when I was 5, I remember when I was 8, being like, starting to have those thoughts of like, okay, I'm really hungry, but I shouldn't. I can't eat that. I can't. What taught me that? The commercials, you know what I mean? Like the subconscious program we get from society and even watching our friends. And it's like, just eat. Like if your body's hungry, just eat. But something as simple as hunger, denying hunger turns into, I think, emotional hunger, spiritual hunger, and just denying every single level of yourself. And that's like a huge lesson to understand.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's just a struggle. So,
hey man, we struggling, but we're learning.
We're learning.
And if learning now.
Yeah. No, because it is true. Like, yeah, we're struggling, and even just now today, like I think it has gotten better. And I think, and I love that for like all the younger people. Like I think it's because I have nieces and nephews growing up and all this kind of, and I'm just like, I'm so glad y'all have a different experience than I did, because I also am very like open with them, like of all mental health struggles and stuff, because it's like I never had that growing up. Like it was kind of just shoved under a rug. And so I'm like, no, we need to talk about it. Like it's okay. Like it's gonna be fine. Like you are going to be fine.
It's like amazing how less crazy you feel.
Yes.
Less alone. Is like, we got to share our stories. We have to.
Yes, definitely. And even like just with your friend group, it doesn't have to be on a broad spectrum.
Exactly.
Like just even with your friend group, or if you have a supportive family or whoever's around you in your core group of people, if you just share it. Because like I recently shared like some anxiety struggles with like my friends, and it's like we all go through anxiety in a different way. So their anxiety manifests very differently than mine. But I've learned, I'm like, I can see patterns, and I'm like, okay, they're really anxious because we've talked about what our triggers are and what makes us anxious and how it manifests. So then we can be like, okay, let's either, or like what helps them even to get through it. It's like, do you want to be alone? Like, oh, I can see they're being anxious or they're feeling anxious. Let's just leave them alone. Or do they need that kind of like, do they want a hug? Like if they want a hug, I'll hug you all day. Like I'm a very like loving person. I will hug you all the time. But it's like some of my one friend she doesn't want to be touched usually. So I think it's so important just to like talk about it. Because then you can kind of see like, and also realize that you aren't alone. Like you're not like just doing like these interviews and stuff. So many musicians and artists deal with these same exact struggles that we in our day-to-day like life, that it's not like glamorous or anything.
We think it's just us, and it's
not. And it's like, no, it's like even like the top people in their industries are dealing with the same exact thing. Even with imposter syndrome, it's like Steve Jobs, I think said, someone said that he had dealt with imposter syndrome, and I'm like, he's like the top of his industry. So it's like, oh my gosh, it's like even if they dealt with that, like I'm not alone. Like it's okay. We're all gonna just get through life.
We're all good, man. We're all doing
Yeah.
great. We're all learning.
Okay, so let's go away from the heavy topics.
Yeah.
Go back to the music. So you recently went on tour with Brett Eldridge. What is one thing that you took away from it?
Oh man. Golly, I mean, this could be said about every tour I've gotten to be on, but like the way that the people I've opened for have treated me, like you would have thought I was like a freaking superstar, you know? And I would go out every night. People don't know who the hell I am, but I would get off stage and like, whether it was Brett or like I've gotten open for Rob Thomas, like you get off stage and they just treat you like every single night. Like they're just so happy to have you there. And so I feel really, really lucky to have opened for artists like that, because that's something I want to do. You know, hopefully one day when I'm headlining, anyone I take out on the road with me, I want them to feel like you are wanted here. Thank you for being here. You're a freaking rock star. You know, it was a cool feeling.
Oh, I love that, because I think it's just so important too, because it's like the openers, like I'm a music photographer, and so I won't say that.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I've known them to kind of just head in for the headliner and then leave.
Yeah.
I'm not really that way unless there's something going on that I just can't make it to the show like soon enough. But most of the time I try to get there for every opener. That's just kind of like my thing that I've like been
That's
like, no, I
awesome.
have to. Like it's not a, oh, you're just here for the headliner. It's like, no, I'm here for all of it. Like,
That's awesome, dude.
and sometimes they're not the best, but
yeah,
it's okay.
And
They're there for a reason. And so I'm like,
Sure.
I'm just gonna support them, and I'm gonna take their picture, and I'm going to put their little blurb in the write-up that I do.
That is awesome.
Because I think it's a full circle of the entire show. And so I love the openers. I found some of my favorite bands and they're opening. And I'm like,
I bet.
I was like, I love you. I was like, I need to know everything about you.
Yeah.
Like, what's your music? Like, do you have an album out? I'll buy it. Like, let's go.
I need some new music. What bands have you found that you like are obsessed with?
So I'm very much into pop punk. So it's kind of, I've been going to shows since I was like 16 to 18. Like it's just my kind of genre. But for pop punk specifically, I went to Sad Summerfest, and Magnolia Park is they blew up on TikTok, and I think they opened the show, and I'm like, I'm a huge Water Parks fan, and they headlined that night. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what, Magnolia Park, you should have been at least like a co-headliner. I was like, in my humble opinion.
Dang, okay, I'm gonna check them out.
I was like, I really like you.
I love it.
So yeah, I think they're definitely on the rise. Like, I mean, I personally think that they're already there, but I know they're still kind of new. But they were on my For You page all the time, and finally I was like, let me just check them out. And then I covered the Sad Summerfest, and I was like, oh my God, you're first on. I was like, I'm gonna be there.
Oh,
like,
dude, that's awesome.
I was like, it's hot, and I don't really want to be there at 2 p.m., but I will be there at 2 p.m.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I think I love the openers, because they don't always have that, like, because when you're a headliner, you have so much pressure on you. Yeah. And openers do have pressure. Don't get me wrong. They do have pressure. But it is less. But it's a lot less, because they're there just to like get everyone pumped up. Right. And ready for the headliner. And I think I love it. I just love music. So
I love how much you love music. It makes me feel so awesome.
Oh yeah. No, I love, I'm someone who's like, yes, I grew up pop punk, and I grew up like pop music, like top 40. I love all music, actually. Like someone's like, oh, like, will you listen to this? I'm like, yeah. I was like, why not? Even like electronic music. I don't usually, when you go to my Spotify, like that is not something that I'm going to go like actively choose. Yeah. But if someone's playing it, I'm like, oh, this is a bop. Like, this is good. Yeah. So, but yeah, I just love music. It's so much fun. Awesome. Okay, so let's circle back to your album.
Yeah.
What is your favorite song off of the album?
Dude, that's hard to pick because I like all of them equally, and they all are like equally therapeutic to me. There is one song on there. It's the last one on the album. It's called The Song. I know, super original title, The Song. But no, it's a song I had written I was homeschooled all growing up, middle school, high school, in and out of public school, but mostly homeschooled. And I always had felt, for some reason, even though I grew up in a huge family, like there's 7 kids in my family, like a big community, I always felt alone for some reason. I just always felt like, and it's probably because I'm very dramatic. I was very dramatic, like baby in my feelings as a kid, and just always felt like I'm the only one going through this right now. Like, but I always felt very alone. Even when I had a lot of friends, I never felt like I had a best friend. I never felt like, for some reason, there was just always this hedge and I couldn't like break through the hedge, and so I written this song, and the chorus is just like, does anybody out there feel like they belong? It's like the whole world singing and I don't even know the song and I just want to sing along. Like I just so badly wanted to be the popular girl, be in the in crowd and feel like I had a best friend. And I was always so envious of the girls in middle school and high school who just had that click and just were always hanging out with each other. And I'm like, golly, like I want that, And it wasn't until I moved to Nashville that I found that and also realized like, okay, I was never alone. I've never been alone. Like I only belong to myself. And because of that, I belong to everything and everybody because I belong to myself. Like I am community. So that's probably my favorite one.
I love that. I just think when songs have messages like that, it does also make others not feel alone, because it's like I've dealt with the same thing. Like I wasn't super popular in school, which is I was super shy and I was very quiet. So obviously I didn't have very many friends because I didn't talk to them. So it's like it wasn't necessarily their fault, but it wasn't necessarily mine. I had huge insecurities and I was just very, very shy growing up.
Yeah.
But it's like I found my clique as an adult, and I didn't even I have 2 best friends who are kind of like, we're like in a little trio group, and I met them when I was 18. So 10 years ago now. So it's like,
that's awesome.
So it's like, I still have like my childhood friends that we kind of like every so often we'll chat to each other, because it's like we've all like spread out, but it's like my core group of people are like the Honey Pop, obviously. I have to shout them out. Like they're my favorite people in the world. But also like my core like in-person group is someone I didn't even meet until I was technically an adult.
Yeah.
So there's no like right way to do life. So yeah, I love that. So kind of keeping along the lines of the album, are there any fun stories that you would want to share from the recording process?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know what? This was like the first time I've ever gotten to play piano on all of my songs. So that was really fun. And I think it was one of those things where like, so my producer, we had started writing the album and we'd written this in like 2 weeks. So we had like decided like, hey, we want to make a record. Let's just get a bunch of songs out into the world because it's time. And I remember we just set up like a bunch of writes with our favorite people, our best friends, and it was just a revolving door of writers every single day for 2 weeks. And we would write like 2, sometimes 3 songs a day. And we were just like cranking it out. I felt like creatively we were on a different plane in the world. Like I was like, we were riding on some energetic wave I've never felt before. And then after I felt human again, I was like, okay, I don't know what that was, but that was insane. So we had written this whole album in 2 weeks, like, which was awesome. And then we just started, like, everything started at the piano, which was so cool for me. And I remember my producer, like, I was this song called Juicy. I was playing that piano riff, that da 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 da, and it was so cute and fun. And I looked at my producer, I was like, man, like, so who should we bring in to play piano on everything? And he looked at me and he was like, you, duh. And I was like, what do you mean me, not me? Like, I'm not a session player. He's like, Abby, you're great. Like, this is your music. You're playing piano on everything. He's like, you are a piano player. Play on your own shit, you know? And I was like, me? Are you sure? And it was awesome, dude. Like, sometimes it just takes that one person to say, like, you're good enough. Like, yes, you know? And that was the first time I really had, like, ever thought that I was, like, worthy of playing on my own record. I don't know why, but that was probably the coolest part.
I love that. I think it's because, like you did say, there are when you're going in, you're like, I'm just the singer, I'm the songwriter, like that's kind of my job. And it's like, but if you can play music, like if you can play like an instrument, why not? Especially because it's your album. Like you have a lot of tie to it. So it's like, it's so, I love that you were like, oh, I don't know if I could do it. And then like that one person's like, this is your record.
Yeah.
like and you can play the piano. So
yeah.
it's like
you've
play
been,
it.
yeah, he's like, you've been playing all the parts for these songs for the past 2 weeks. You came up with them. We're just gonna press record. And I was like, okay.
I love that. And you're just like, okay, I guess so.
Yeah. So
I love
that.
cool. That's amazing. Okay, so last question.
Okay.
What can we expect from you in the second half of 2022 or early 2023?
Ooh, dude, thinking about 2023 is weird. I'm like, what? I don't know about you, but I like entered the pandemic as a young, you know, spritzy 20-year-old, whatever how old I was, and then left, and I'm like, I'm 25. Like, what the hell? So no, but I think the rest of this year, definitely more music. I'm like, I know I just put an album out, but I'm like, let's just crank it out because we can. Like, that's the world we live in now. People just want more, you know? So definitely more music. We're going to get on some festivals. So I'll like finally get to see everybody that's been listening to my music, which would be awesome. And I'm playing my first headlining show in Nashville. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited about it, but.
Oh, I'm so excited. Have you announced the date or the venue yet?
Oh yeah, it's going to be August 30th at Exit In.
Ooh, that's so much fun.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I wish I could be there.
I was like, wait, where are you? What state are you in?
I'm currently in Houston still.
Oh, you're in Houston. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, if I ever come to Houston, I'll hit you up.
Oh, heck yes. I would be so down.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm so excited. Your first headliner.
Thank you.
All right. So, I guess for the last bit, it's the end of the interview. Is there anything that you want to kind of plug or anything for our viewers?
I don't know. I think, dude, you covered everything.
Oh,
that was awesome.
Oh, thank you. So that was our conversation with Abby Anderson. She just recently released her album Sugar Spice. So you can definitely get that on any streaming platform that you have. You can buy it on her website, which we will be posting all the links below. And then she also has a headlining show in Nashville on August 30th. We will also be posting the link to get tickets down below. We highly recommend that you go and support her for her first headline show. She is amazing. As you can tell from our conversation, it was very fun and I loved getting to learn more about her and her journey from moving to Nashville when she was 17 to going through struggles when she was a child and even now, and just learning about her songwriting process. So we highly recommend Abby, and we cannot wait to see her keep growing and hopefully headline some shows around the US because we will be front row and center for her.